This week, we are uncovering the elusive water rat, also known as Rakali. This aquatic predator is an essential part of our waterways because they are an indicator species and because they are great at keeping invasive species in check. Their position at the top of the food chain helps us to determine the health of an ecosystem because we can look at just this one species and know how the entire ecosystem is doing because of the way that they interact with the organisms around them. If the Rakali are doing well, we know that the ecosystem they are living in is doing well. Yet not many people know about how important these native rodents are to our riparian, wetland and river-adjacent ecosystems. Let's dive right in to this week's Species Spotlight. The Rakali's scientific name, Hydromys chrysogaster, translates to golden-bellied water mouse due to their light fur on their underbelly and mouse-like appearance. Unfortunately, their common name, water rat, doesn't do justice to these native rodents. It has led to misconceptions and negative perceptions due to the associations with the introduced pest Rattus rattus, even though the two animals are not any way genetically similar. In the late 90s, there was a push to change the common name to Rakali, an Aboriginal word from the Ngarrindjeri people of the Lower Murray area, a much more fitting name for such a beautiful native species. Rakali are Australia's largest rodents. They are powerful predators in their aquatic habitat. Many people mistake Rakali swimming in the water for the introduced rats Rattus rattus, but in fact, Rakali are known to hunt introduced rats, as well as other invasive species in Australian ecosystems, such as cane toads and carp. Rakali are relatively widespread throughout Australia and Papua New Guinea, but due to a range of human and natural factors, numbers are declining. In Western Australia, Rakali are listed as a priority 4 threatened species, in need of watch but not as endangered as other Australian animals. Let's learn more about why these creatures are declining in places around Australia and what we can do to help them continue to thrive in the environment for decades to come. Before we continue, I'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsor, the Australian Platypus Conservancy. They're not only about platypuses, they're passionate about the Rakali too. They have some great resources aiming to educate the public, raise awareness, and celebrate these native aquatic mammals. Check them out to learn more about these wonderful creatures and contribute to their citizen science project by reporting any sightings of any platypuses or Rakali you see in the wild. I first discovered the Rakali on a walk along Barragon Creek, which goes through the middle of my hometown, Young. It is situated in a grassy woodland and dry scarical biome, but the area right near the segment of the creek where I walk is mostly built up since it is situated near the town centre. I was fascinated by these beautiful creatures and wanted to learn more about them and how they had adapted to their aquatic environment. Rakali have a number of physical and behavioural adaptations that enable them to be efficient hunters. Some interesting facts about Rakali include that Rakali are primarily nocturnal, which means they are most active during the night. However, they are known to hunt during the day in winter to avoid the cold water on winter nights, because their fur is not as well insulated and they don't like the cold. Their stealthy movements allow them to hunt without drawing attention to themselves. Their bodies are designed for efficient swimming and hunting. From their water-resistant fur to their partially webbed hind feet and distinctive white-tipped rudder tail, their strong nose and whiskers allow them to sense prey, and their streamlined body helps them to powerfully subdue it. These water-loving rodents establish territories along riverbanks, creeks, and lakes. They mark their territory and defend it fiercely from other species, as well as members of their own species. Rakali are opportunistic feeders. Their diverse menu includes fish, crustaceans, insects, frogs, small mammals, and water birds. They will even turn to plants to bulk up their diet when resources are scarce. I was interested to learn whether and how much Rakali had been affected by human activities in the area. So after doing some research, I decided to conduct a mini survey of the environment where they lived. I walked along the creekside walking track, recording my observations along the way. My inquiry question for this research was, how has human activity impacted Rakali populations in Barragon Creek? My hypothesis was that the most damaging impact would be the litter left behind by people, which had the potential to strangle Rakali or poison them by slowly breaking down into microplastics, which are inevitably passed up the food chain until they reach the Rakali. My primary data showed that while rubbish and plastic pollution was and still is an issue in Barragon Creek, A major factor that has affected the creek environment recently was a flash flood last year, which has dragged a lot of sediments downstream and deposited them on the lower banks. I'm currently uncertain about whether the flash flood has had any long-term effects on the Rakali living in the creek, and will have to conduct further studies to find out more. I also analysed secondary data to see what other impacts humans have had on Rakali. Analysis of this secondary data showed that the main threats to Rakali were crayfish traps and nets, which can trap the Rakali, leaving them with no way to escape, and many of these animals who are trapped eventually drown. In a Western Australian survey of causes of Rakali death, it was found up to 43% of the Rakali killed died in marron traps. Predation by cats and dogs is another big problem for the Rakali. Even though they are the top predator in their natural environment, their relatively small size means that they have little chance against larger animals like dogs or cats. Current population data is still limited due to the shy nature of Rakali and the difficulties with the standard capture mark recapture method that scientists use to estimate animal populations, because the Rakali are just too smart to be caught in these traps. But nevertheless, we need to continue informing the public about these important native species and what we can do to protect them. So, what can we do to help these animals? We can support organisations like the Australian Platypus Conservancy. We can educate others about Rakali and prevent our pets from killing them whenever possible. We shouldn't leave litter near our waterways, and we need to make sure not to use any fish traps that could strangle Rakali. Remember, every Rakali we save contributes to a healthier, more balanced ecosystem, as well as them being key soldiers in helping in the fight against invasive species. Well, that just about wraps up today's Species Spotlight episode of Wildlife at Risk. Join us next time as we delve deeper into the lives of nature's unsung heroes. And until then, keep your eyes on the waterways for water rats swimming in creeks near you. And remember, Rakalis rule.